Outside there was a storm. Heavy rain, thunder and lightning lit up the Delhi sky. But India weathered worse conditions in 2020. It recorded more than 10 million cases of COVID-19 and around 150,000 deaths. Inside, at a news conference in Delhi on Sunday, there was hope that storm may pass.
After adequate examination, the CDSCO has decided to accept the recommendations of the expert committee, and accordingly, vaccines of Messrs. Serum and Bharat Biotech are being approved for restricted use in emergency situation.
The announcement was a formality that begins the world's biggest vaccination campaign against coronavirus. One vaccine was developed by Oxford AstraZeneca and another by Indian drug maker Bharat Biotech. Both are cheaper and easier to distribute than other COVID-19 vaccines, although they both require 2 doses and must be stored between 2 and 8 degrees. The Oxford AstraZeneca jab has an efficacy of 70% and will be distributed by the Serum Institute of India, the world's largest manufacturer of vaccines. Its CEO tweeted it would be ready to roll out in the coming weeks. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi responded with congratulations, tweeting a decisive turning point to strengthen a spirited fight. It would make every Indian proud that the 2 vaccines that have been given emergency use approval are made in India. India hopes to vaccinate 300 million people within the next 8 months, a quarter of its population. To do that, it's been holding nationwide drills. So far, almost 100,000 health workers have been trained to give the shots.
We expect that vaccine demand will continue to be high, and whatever teething troubles we may face in the initial rollout stages should hopefully be tackled real time.
Behind the United States, India is the most COVID-infected nation. These approvals give hope that developing nations won't be left behind in the fight against the virus. Charlotte Bellis, Al Jazeera.
Well, Mark Eccleston-Turner is a lecturer of global health law at Keele University here in the UK, and he joins us via Skype. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here on Al Jazeera. We were just watching that report about India. Well, the government is saying they plan to vaccinate 300 million people in 8 months, which sounds like an extraordinary number, considering that in a country like the UK, they are admitting that they'll struggle to vaccinate 50 million in over a year. So do you think that India is over-promising, or what do you think of the distribution processes in various parts of the world?
So I think that's really the key question. India has been very clear with what its aims are, but there is that danger of over-promising and under-delivering, which is what we've seen in the UK. The UK government initially said that they would have 30 million doses by the end of 2020 and have ended up with 50,000 doses. 500,000 doses rather, and that's obviously disappointing, but it's also a huge problem for public trust and confidence as well. So that's one thing that we have to take into account. I think the licensing of the AstraZeneca vaccine, the one which is being manufactured by the Serum Institute in India, is a huge boon for the immunization campaign in low-income countries. It's a much cheaper, much more accessible, much easier to roll out vaccine. However, one thing we have to bear in mind is that vaccines don't save lives. Vaccine campaigns save lives. Vaccines, when they're in people's arms and they're being given en masse, that's what saves people's lives. A vaccine which has been developed and licensed but is sitting in a factory and doesn't get rolled out because there's infrastructure problems or what have you is no good to anyone. Now, up until this point in the pandemic, all we've been focusing on is development, is research and development, and actually inventing new vaccines to tackle coronavirus. And that has been an extraordinary effort. And there have been key achievements with the AstraZeneca vaccine, but in the UK, we've also licensed the Pfizer vaccine, and there's also the Moderna vaccine as well. But what we have not taken into consideration are the huge logistical and infrastructural problems with rolling that vaccine out, not just in the UK, but worldwide as well. So, for example, we now need more glass vials to store the vaccine in than we have ever needed in human history. We need more of the actual needle, the injectable, which goes into your arm, than we've ever needed at any point in human history. And we need more healthcare workers to administer the vaccine than we've ever needed in human history. And one of the problems is that we have neglected those issues. up until this point, because we've just been focusing on research and development. And those barriers that I talked about there could create potential bottlenecks in the rollout of the vaccine.
And forgive me for interrupting you there. When you say we, are you talking about the UK, or do you mean more generally most countries in dealing with this pandemic? And can you think of any success stories when it comes to the distribution of vaccines?
So I think I was talking about the UK, but also the global system generally, the multilateral system through the World Health Organization and Gavi and COVAX. It's very much been focused on research and development, and we've not paid enough attention to rollout. India is doing these trials, or these dummy runs of rolling out the immunization, rolling out the vaccine, which is positive. One success story is Israel. Israel has managed to immunize nearly 10% of its population already, and there are some interesting lessons to be learned there. Now, vaccination has happened pretty much 24 hours a day in Israel, round-the-clock immunization, and they've also brought in the military to support that vaccination campaign. Now, that seems to have worked quite successfully in Israel, where the relationship, where the Israeli military is held in quite high regard within most of the local population. But we have to be careful about thinking that is applicable to all settings. There are many parts of the world where involving the military in public health campaigns is a very dangerous precedent to set. We only have to look at how the military was involved in the Ebola outbreak in the DRC to see that involving military actors in public health campaigns tends to end quite badly. So we do have to bear that in mind. But Israel seems to be doing very well at the moment.
And so, I mean, bearing in mind that, as you say, you know, each country is different with different dynamics, what would you say overall are the key factors that should be in place to have some kind of successful distribution of this vaccine?
I think one of the most important things is trust, is the relationship between the individual and the government, and the individual having an awareness and a trust in that the promises being made by government and the assurances being made by government and the vaccine being offered by government is safe and effective and will work. That is key, and it's not just key in when coronavirus happens, it's key with all public health campaigns. And the problem you get when government over-promises and under-deliver is that erodes public trust and public confidence. And that is key during the pandemic. And from a UK perspective, that public trust is something the UK government has handled very, very badly. The communication from government and the messaging coming out from government throughout this pandemic has been incredibly poor. And that's something they really need to step up with the rollout of the vaccine.
Mark Eccleston-Turner, Lecturer of Global Health Law at Keele University here in the UK. Sir, thank you.